Welcome to Loleventvods. Watch the full game of today's LPL 2025 matchup.
Stage and maybe into the playoffs as well. Very standard bans on that red side for AL. Skarner and Callista continuously taken off the board in this first phase.
Yeah, I'm sorry for everybody at home. I want to make sure that we are actually on the correct patch, because if we are on, if we're on 15.2, then that means that we have a couple of changes coming into this patch. So I'm interested to see. We get that first pick in the Vi. I think such an important champion for the likes of Kanavi. And while we get Rumble here, this champion has not been finding the same level of success as we would have assumed based on the priority that we've seen. It is like 1-7 so far this year in LPL.
Well, Flandre, very well known for this champion, so I think he'll be happy to pick it up, especially with the priority that it's had in draft so far this season. The Corki, also a massive pick for both of these players. Hope had a really good game on it just a couple of weeks ago. On the other side for top, it's going to be an Aurora lock-in for Kareem, and we'll see what they decide to round things out with, maybe matching that bottom lane to find something alongside the Corki.
And now we have, like you were saying, the fact that Ashe and Varus are still up and available. They were champions that weren't touched too much on the patch, and they're going to slip all the way to 4 and 5. Such an interesting adaptation when you look across the board in terms of global competitive meta. Seeing those two champions already slip away is something that is going to be very interesting to track, especially once we get further into this series. So already getting the support pick. I like this bottom lane pair for Hope and Kael, who have really provided so much pressure in the early game, especially for their series here in LPL, as well as Demacia Cup.
Yeah, this has been like one of the best bot lanes in the LPL so far this season, both in Demacia Cup and, of course, when we went and looked at AL series against LGD last week, Hope really just 1v9ing a lot of those games, specifically in the grand finals that these two teams played against each other. And so on a very strong pick like the Corki, and with really good engage from from Kael, the Rel Rumble combo going to be very big in those team fights as we head into the second phase of bans. It's going to be supports targeted here for Crisp. That Rakan, one of his specialties, will be off the board in game 1.
Which other support are we going to go for? Braum could be something that I think TES could be looking for, especially if we're talking about playing for this bottom lane. Again, Varus, Ashe, two champions that with the range that they have could be very, very difficult for someone like Corki to deal with, but getting rid of Renata. So saying that even if you are going to be picking the Varus, we want to get rid of those double ranged matchups that tend to appear, especially with someone like Varus, and maybe forcing the hand of TES to be able to pick up this Ashe champion. But on the opposite side, I think trying to ban out junglers from Tarzan is a lost cause. This guy has already proved that he is more than capable of picking out a wide variety of champions. We haven't even touched upon the fact that Corki is still a flex. We've seen Shanks and Hope both play this champion, so interested to see what exactly we're going to get from them.
It's going to be the Xin Zhao for Tarzan, as it leaves Shanks with probably the last pick, unless they flex that Corki around, as you just mentioned. We'll see what Kanavi can do on the Vi against it. Generally, I think relatively even matchup down there, as we need to find a bottom lane for top esports. Jackie11 and Crisp, this duo, despite the reputation of these two players, both former world champions, maybe on a little bit of the downturn just early on in the season. So they need to find some synergy. They need to pick it up together as a unit, and they're going to have to do it on this Ezreal here for Jackie. And hey, that's the Alistar, this time playing in the support role.
Yay! Look, Cream now knows. Shanks and the rest of AL are already mentally in the headspace of playing with an Alistar. So some of the small mind games here as we get the last pick in the draft here for anyone's legend. We're going to see where this Corki is going. It seems like for now with the Silas Hover that this Corki is going to be paired alongside the Rel. And I was kind of, we didn't get to talk about it. I kind of missed it on this point, but with Rumble, the usual answer has just been slam the Galio if it's up, but that hasn't been the case. It's going to be in the last part of this draft. So for AL, really strong setup. I want to see the 2v2 with Shanks and Tarzan move in. You've got Galio to help support. The damage may not all be there, but I'm looking for what they can get from this top side on their map.
Yeah, and Shanks really good on this champion. And Top Esports very familiar with Shanks on this champion. We saw a clip earlier on in the show of that game 2 in the grand final. Shanks, I think, finishing 11-2 on the Galio in that game. So definitely something that he is very comfortable on, and something that Top Esports knows that they have to be careful with, especially with 3 melee champions on their composition. That mid-jungle going to be a very important matchup. 2 legends in the jungle, 2 new bloods in the mid lane, as we get set for a rematch of that 2024 Demacia Cup Grand Finals. Winner putting themselves in a very good position to walk away with first place in Group A. Not necessarily a guarantee just yet, as there's still a couple more series left to go, but setting yourself up for that spot in first gets you double elimination in the first round of playoffs, as well as, of course, just proving your dominance once again over the other squad.
It's such a big difference. Not only, we're talking about how cutthroat the format can be here in Split 1, the fact that in 3 best of 5s, you can basically be done for the first couple of months of the year. And then you're talking about, top 1 of every group gets that double elim. Top 2, if you get second in your group, you're going to potentially have to face against one of these teams, which is just like, for maybe a team that we're not expecting, that is maybe on the outside looking in, especially for like a TT or even any of the groups that are kind of, any of the teams coming out of Group D, like IG, NIP, RNG, FPX. Suddenly you have a super tough matchup immediately to start, and you don't have a second life in the bracket.
And for either of these teams, the goal is both, for both of them, to make it back to at least the finals where they were in the Demacia Cup, right? Like finishing towards the top of the standings and potentially getting a shot at that first strike tournament in a couple of months. Definitely on the menu for both of these teams. That is their end goal for this first split. And so getting that extra life starts right here. You can almost consider this a playoff game in a way because of that, because the winner has a good chance of getting to double elim. The loser has a good chance of falling down to the lower bracket. So all that to say, super excited for this series. It looks like we had a slight pause getting into game. So we're going to have to wait just a little bit longer. But the expectation is that this is going to be a very close series. What's going on there with Chris?
So, funnily enough, Kai's chair does the same thing of like the armrest, like pivoting in like multiple different directions. I'm glad that Crisp is doing tricks on it and making him do 360s.
Don't say doing
right
tricks
before
on
the
it,
match.
man.
He is. He is. It's the one time I'm allowed to get away with it in this case. So, look, we had a pause 2 nights ago with the LGD versus WE series. A great Cassante bug happening there. And, look, it's not my fault this time, okay? I wasn't there for that broadcast. It happened anyway. Now I get another one. This feels more like a continuation of my past 24 hours of doing the full 5-game series, ending at like 5:30
So,
into
I was gonna
immediate
say,
pause.
Do you want to describe like what your sleep's looking like over these next couple days? Because you're working 3 days in a row, if I'm not mistaken. Here
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to everybody, and I said this yesterday, I already watched the games live, so the only times I really get some sleep is maybe in a pretty dominant series. I'll say, look, last game of the night, I'll catch it in the morning. I'll go watch the VOD back, 2x speed, take care of it, make sure that I'm caught up. But I'm watching most of these series lives anyway, so being on the West Coast, it's basically, because I'm a house husband, I get to be fun employed for the show. I'm trying to think, my sleep schedule's like 4:30, 5 a.m. because it's usually when our series end. Start to get ready for bed, get ready, go to sleep, wake up sometime around like 12, which I personally really hate. As much as I would love to sleep for 9 hours, I really, really do love waking up early in the morning if I can help it.
That's impressive right there. Sleeping that late and still getting up for your morning walk. I mean, I cannot say the same personally.
8 like if in a perfect world and I wasn't a degenerate gamer, being able to wake up at like 8 or 9:30 is just beautiful, because you literally can faff about for like so many hours and you're like, whew, well, that just feels like I spent my whole morning, and then you look, it's only 12 o'clock. You're like, okay, I have the rest of the day.
Wow. What an interesting thought that I haven't experienced.
My husband's looking at me knowing that I like to wake up at 11, but he's the one that's saying, oh, I need to sleep. I'm shufu, it's too much. So I can just throw him under the bus, and he can't do anything because I'm on the broadcast. He's not. He's playing Warframe right now, so have fun.
taking a good break as he's been
Yes.
on a lot of these broadcasts as well on the production side. Shout out to everybody, of course, that has been helping out behind the scenes. It's been a really fun project to be a part of, getting the chance to broadcast these LPL games here basically every day here with this new schedule. There's the series happening all the time. So if you do like what you see, make sure to give us a follow. We also have our coffee page, which we'll be talking about a little bit at the end of this game, that you can go and support us here as well. Still waiting on the resolution to this pause. We will, of course, update you as soon as we know more information. But for now, we can take a look at
Why
some of
do
the
we
cute
have
signs
baby
at the
pictures of
stands. Look at
Jackie
Jackie Love. I can
I've
see the
said
resemblance.
I've said very many sus things about some of the players here in LPL, so I'm gonna show respect to Jackie for former world champion, and just say another beautiful man that has graced our broadcast.
Absolutely. You can see a little close-up of him there. I mean, this is a really fun top esports team to look at, all things considered, right? You have the two world champions down there in the bottom lane. You have Kareem, this young mid laner, and then of course the upgrade, as we're saying, in the jungle, Kanavi. I know we touched on this, or you touched on this a lot during the finals broadcast of the Demacia Cup, but we got two of the best junglers in the world going at it here, and we didn't really even get the chance to focus on it too much because there's so many other great storylines here as well.
Yeah, Tarzan and Kanavi, I feel they share such a similar story to Korean junglers that made their name, I think a lot of it anyway, here in the LPL. And two also that I think have been pretty maligned by the international community for some of their performances, specifically at Worlds. You think of Tarzan on many of the Weibo and LNG days. Those were not very hot and definitely had some whoopsies there. Kanavi seems like every time we get to like a Worlds Championship or maybe like an international, seems like there's always like one or two series that really kind of mark their history. But outside of that, for fans that only really watch internationals, you come back to the LPL and these two guys are insane. I mean, even just last year, Tarzan, not for having a team in spring, comes back in summer and looks like the best jungler in the entire league, versus Kanavi, who not only on JDG has been able to bring home some championships, but individually I think has been a top 3 player in his role for so many years.
I mean, you think about, just the history of both of these guys, with Kanavi being on Griffin back in the day and then coming over to JDG for all those years. A little weird to see him in a different uniform, as we feel like he's been pretty synonymous with that organization for a while now. But time in and time out, going into the internationals, it is always these two junglers being at the top of the table. But it's just what we can see from them once they get to that stage that maybe leave a little bit more questions to be answered. And so it's going to start here. Again, only one spot available for each region in this first international tournament. Definitely a lot of pressure for both of these teams, as there's always a spring split that you can look forward to, but that all these guys will really want to win.
Grapes, I want to ask you how you feel about the new 3-split system, because we've had a lot of talks about the format and kind of what we have here in LPL, but we have a new international tournament on the horizon, and at least for this year, we'll see what it kind of looks like. But what are any like immediate impressions of having yet another international tournament?
I definitely like more international. I think the good thing is that while I do love Fearless as somebody who watches a lot of the NACL, and we were one of the first regions and leagues to implement that. I'm glad it's only for one split, at least for the start. There's very different nuances between each form of drafting, especially when you get to these best of 5 series. And so while Fearless is definitely exciting, I'm excited to see the return back to normalcy as we get to some of the more series tournaments later on in the season. But that's enough ranting and stalling for now. We got the game. We got a game between Top Esports and Anyone's Legends, two teams that have won their first game in the Group A of the LPL first split. And of course, again, a rematch of that Demacia Cup. A lot of expectations for both of these squads. AL, while they weren't necessarily the favorites coming into that finals, certainly have a lot to prove once again to make sure that everyone knows that that series was not a fluke.
Two big changes, I think, coming in for specifically this series. One, some of the runes got changed, specifically the newer ones that got added, Deep Ward, Grizzly Mementos, and Sixth Sense, so all of those in that tree. Some of those got a pretty big bump in terms of the amount of haste that they give, and also trinket haste specifically. But big change for me, feats of strength immediately nerfed. It's no longer first blood, it is now the feat of warfare. So first to 3 kills, which definitely feels a little bit more balanced. It's not like, oh, we can just level 1 flip and look for something. That is going to be a big change. And we'll see what the Otacon changes are as well, because they really wanted to get more of a balance between Voracious and Ruinous.
I mean, it's always so hard as we, first of all, see a little bit of a lane swap going on. 369 on the Ornn.
Yeah.
Gonna tank it a little bit down there in the bottom lane, while Jackie and Chris up there top against Flandre. 369 taking a lot of damage early on. I mean, that dive maybe a little bit too easy if it ends up coming down to it in a little bit.
That's really tough. Already having a lot of your HP bar chunked, and we'll see the junglers are actually mirroring or flipping their pathing against each other. So Kanavi is going to end on the top side of the map. Tarzan is going to be coming down towards the bottom lane. We'll see what they're actually able to do here. Kanavi, I think without much vision of where Tarzan is, should be at least a little bit wary of protecting his top laner. But again, TP changes. You can always still come back to this lane if he really needs to. And it seems for now, with all of his pots gone, this is going to be a tricky situation. Any damage that Kyle and Hope are able to land in this moment is going to be a lot more permanent versus 369.
You see already Kyle sweeping out that brush, making sure that if Tarzan ends up coming down, as we can see him start to posture, skipping his blue side at the very moment to try and make a play here, potentially on this wave. He's a little bit late, so it might have to wait, they might have to wait until this next wave crashes, but 369 definitely could be in a fair amount of trouble here.
This is the change, though. Cannon minions are on 4 now, so they're trying to deny him a punch of gold.
All right, here we go. There comes a stun. It's all too easy, and who else but Tarzan to pick up first blood for AL.
And they get a second plate here for the side of Anyone's Legends.
Brutal.
They'll get their recall. Look at all of these minions. And not only is he missing this golden experience now, but with the teleport changes, it is such a long channel that you will actually lose a lot more gold than you would have in prior seasons. So a fantastic job from Anyone's Legends. And now we're going to see them try to replicate this, but Hope and Kyle are already on their way.
So Kanavi going to start the dive before the wave crashes under. However, Flandre knows that his bot lane is coming. It'll be a 3v3 very soon, and as he overheats, looks like top Esports actually have to back away. They are going to get this first plate because of the added defenses. We're not going to get any more. So overall, big win for AL in the lane swap. They're going to go back to these Australian standard lanes, at least for a little bit, with Hope and Kyle matching Jackie and Chris up top.
Man, what a great start here for Anyone's Legend. And while it isn't the same as maybe Demacia Cup was looking, it is a really great execution coming in from AL and the synergy that we're getting between them and Tarzan. We'll see if that continues. Now, there's a little bit of action in mid lane as we're seeing Kanavi take a detour to try to help out Cream in that lane, and it's going to be up to this 2v2 for TES with Cream and Kanavi. Can they find the 1-2 punch to really open up this big, what I would consider is kind of like a crab comp, where you have all of these tanks and you're kind of setting up for your damage dealers? Can they get behind them with a Vive, with the Between Worlds from an Aurora? Oh man.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's going to be a while till we get to the team fights here, Alk, but the team fights will be explosive, especially with, you know, these just massive front lines, as you say, for both of these teams. I think someone like Shanks is going to be a big factor in that on the Galio, trying to disrupt that crab, I guess, as you were saying.
Thankfully, or not thankfully, but maybe we get some Urgot. I know someone in one of the Twitch chats was asking for some more Urgot to pop up in the LPL. The only person, by the way, I know it's a complete tangent,
hey,
but
369.
we're talking about Crabgot, yes. 369 is the only person to play Urgot in LPL in like the last 3 years, which is pretty insane, but, you know, we've been getting a little bit more of that champion, and, you know, in a full Fearless, anything's possible.
It is always one of those niche champions that whenever it comes out, it can be really impactful. Obviously, being from North America, we got Whippo on that all the time. So definitely something that we are very familiar with here in the Western Hemisphere. Maybe not so much in the LPL. We do have a fight in the mid lane, breaking out as the Grubs are about to spawn. As we have a modified 4v4, Flandre going to be there first in terms of the top laners roaming up. Like Cream gonna get hit by the taunt, gonna be back to the flash crash down for KL, And here comes the Between Worlds. Kyle is maybe caught out. There comes the hero's entrance. It lands just onto Kanavi, and nobody will fall from either side. Big health bar chunks, though, are in favor of AL as they potentially are going to posture their way towards those grubs. Shanks and Tarzan going to lead the charge.
I think this is such a win. Now Tarzan 369 trying to find the turn onto Flandra. The flash, however, gets him out, and he still has held the teleport. So it seems like they're going to try and maybe make a play towards the bottom side, but all of that posturing in this mid lane was to get us the first grubs here, as Jackie Love being a little bit annoying versus Tarzan. Tarzan does have the smite, so can try to go for the 1v1, but Aurora's on the way. Kyle has the inside track. It's going to be the flash coming out from both of our top laner and our junglers here for Anyone's Legend.
So, good track so far for AL. They got the first kill. They got the first major objective. We got some Hex Splash shenanigans right there. Again, as we mentioned at the top of this game, it is first to 3 kills right now, so AL do not currently have that feat of strength just yet. It also means we're going to get this. We're not going to get these feats of strength until maybe much later into the game, especially in some of these pro games here. I mean, talking about the Otacon changes, going back to that for a second. Just not a lot. It's not as much bloodshed in pro as there is solo queue.
Wow, who could have seen that coming? Not all that too surprising. I love the HUD changes. I want to thank LPL. One of the things I have been asking for is, you know, small things like the blood roses, blood petals. Are we going to be seeing how many?
This. Okay.
Yep. All right, wow, we are that bored tonight. Oh, they don't see each other, so that's why that happens. Okay, even better. Thank you to some of the observers, but for the time being, Kyle has to be so careful. This 2v2.
Oh, wow.
Kanavi.
Crowd control chain. Kanavi nearly getting into ultimate range, although it would have been a little bit risky into the tower with Tarzan around the area. Jackie is going to try to crash this wave. And it looks like AL should be okay, at least for now, as Hope should be able to clear this one out rather safely.
Okay. Let's see what the allocations of lanes are going to be after this moment. Are they going to be shifting their bottom lane to be playing for this first dragon? Seems like 369 for the time being is going to continue towards this, as right now what TES are going to be looking for after this reset is Kanavi and Chris walk into the enemy jungle, walk into river, start to clear out vision that is in your jungle, and try to get some more proactive deep vision onto the side of AL, because as of right now, AL have had a really strong grip of the map. I think that their rotations have obviously been a little bit cleaner. That's why we see them with their first blood. And when we saw TES in the grand finals, I think that one of the things that did plague them was some of their execution wasn't up to snuff. Maybe that is due in part to having Kanavi and Chris join the team this season, and we'll see if they're able to kind of hammer that away. We saw them in the Team WE series take a pretty resounding 3-0, but as we've seen throughout this group, Team WE don't seem like they're putting up much of a threat.
Looks like AL gonna go for a play in the mid lane. Chris blocked up, remember, doesn't have that flash, doesn't have the ultimate yet either. Tarzan with 3 talent strike, picking up that kill. Now 2-0 in favor of AL as they'll make their way down to the Hextech trade.
They need to get so much more off of this play. Obviously, the second kill is great. They're going to try and deny Kanavi camps, but they need to guard the dragon. They need to get some more gold onto Hope, because this entire time, Cream is in a side lane, pushing away, getting himself turret plates. Flandra is going to match, but he's a little bit late. He's going to get some of these minions. He's going to have to want to teleport if TES are looking for a contest. I mean, Chris is back up. They still have the Vi ultimate. We have not seen TES be too proactive in this early game.
And maybe that is to be expected with side lanes like Orin and Ezreal, but Kanavi is always known for making plays, so up to him to try to force something to happen. As you can see, him and Chris now trying to gain vision around the top side of the map with those grubs spawning in just about 30 seconds. If AL do pick up that second spawn of grubs, it would be the first feat of strength going over to them.
This is tough, Grapes. I mean, I would love to see TES actually contest for this. I think they have some really strong upgrades coming in, but I look 10.5 minutes in, and there's a completed Sundered Sky here for Tarzan. That is a massive shift in power for Anyone's Legend. If they want to fight, you can move Galio. He's going to be catching this bottom lane wave. 369. Okay, I was wondering why he didn't have his flash. Maybe it's just a visual bug, but he's going to have to be able to match with his teleport. I want to see what TS are going to be able to do around this kind of objective. You still have the Aurora ultimate as well.
And this is definitely a big one for both teams, but specifically for TS to try to keep the game in a stable point. Sure, they are down only 500 gold, but in terms of the objective game and things like that, it should be a pretty big win for AL if they're able to pick up this second spawn of grubs. Right now the vision is being cleared out by the red side, although Kanavi is awaiting here in this rush, waiting for the rest of his team to get here. As you can see, Top Esports, they really want these grubs. They are sending all 4 to get to the objective first.
Already Galio's on the move over. It is going to be 1 grub going over to TES, so that means that AL will not have at least access to the full feats of strength from the first 3 epic monsters. You need to get the entire grub camp if you want it. So by denying 1, they are given 5, however, and while in the draft we said that AL probably are not going to be that strong of a side laning team due to just having a Galio and a Grumble, you are more indexed on wanting to try to find team fights. Tarzan, you're just gonna have to flash here, bro. Oh, we're just going
he's
for
going
it.
straight in on a Jackie Love, who just arcane shifts away. Looks like the Crescent Guard doing enough, and here comes the teleport. It's gonna take a little bit of time to channel, but here comes Flandre, Equalizer, doing a really nice job on that choke. And Crisp actually forced to run the other direction and pop that Unbreakable Will. So no kills, but a good chunk of cooldowns wasted there for Top Esports. They get 2 teleports on the other side for AL.
If they get a single kill there onto Crisp, that's one of the feats of strength going over to them. So I get why they were looking for it, but obviously maybe feeling a little antsy on the trigger there, losing both of their teleports from their solo lanes. Let's see if TES are able to respond in kind and get some pressure onto the side lane, but that felt like a perfect timer for them to do that. Cream was there for that play, so they're not actually losing all that much on the side lanes or in split pushing. Not something that we're super keen on here.
Yeah. Well, look at the CS actually down in the top lane. 369 up, what is that, 20, 22, 24? Over Flandre
That's
and the
almost
Rumble.
30. That's almost 30 right there.
Yeah, I mean,
with 3 more. And he has a Kanik Rookerin.
He's been able to pick up some plates as well. He's going to be pretty unkillable for Flandre in a side lane going forward. So that's something to take a look at here as Navi going aggressive in terms of posturing into the enemy red buff. Now Crisp is potentially in a little bit of trouble as well, as the invade does not prove fruitful for TES.
Okay, so Grapes, a minute and a half here before the dragon spawning, 2.5 before this Herald is up. And that'll be about the time where TES can finish some more of their legendary items. Specifically, I'm looking at Jackie Love not quite having the Trinity Force up, neither is Hope. So once they get these first items, I'm kind of looking at TES to have a little bit more damage. You already have the Ludens completed here, and with Ornn, he's getting more and more resistances from every one of these tank items. So early on, I think they have better setup. AL have a lot of damage, but they need to be able to land it onto key members, and I think an Aurora and an Ezreal are very difficult to really pin down.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, the front line definitely very targetable here for AL with things like the Galio taunt and the Rel delivery system potentially as well. But the carries might be a little bit tougher to get after. And, you know, Cream, as we mentioned, was farming pretty well, picking up a good amount of turret plates. Right now is up in gold just barely over Shanks. Him and Jackie Love going to have to be very big in these team fights and play around space really well with the mobility that they have in their kits. Dragon forward spawning now in 40 seconds. Top Esports getting around the area now. Target potentially being this bottom lane tier 1. It's going to be a while until Flandre gets there. A little bit of skirmishing up in the top side, but as we saw in the 1v1, these guys not super keen to
Doesn't matter. He's got Hollow Radiance, so he just gets to stand there. For everybody at home as well, Unending Despair is bugged currently and is globally banned. We'll be kind of keeping a track on that as to when that falls off. I don't think Shanks would have gotten canceled there. It's a bunch of magic damage, and as long as your shield isn't broken, you don't get canceled on the recall. He has to know this is warded, man. You can't stay here. He is level 11 alongside Cream, so 2 ranks into that ultimate is a pretty big game changer. I think more important for someone like Cream with this Aurora is bonus damage as well. Dragon spawned here. Seems like AL are finally getting into position, but Jackie Love is only recalling now, so any space that AL find in the next 15 seconds is going to be theirs to claim with a numbers advantage.
And with the numbers advantage, potentially also comes the teleport advantage that Cream has over Shanks.
Oh,
Shanks could get there with the global ultimate, but only semi-global as we say that. Cream headed back to base, imagining he is looking for a teleport to join the fight as AL are starting up this Infernal Dragon. Shanks on the way, but not here just yet. Now could be the time for Top Esports to find and engage. 369 posturing, looking for a potential angle for that call to Forge God. Does not issue it just yet as the Dragon goes to half HP, and AL will peel off for now, ceding control to top.
this map right now is so difficult, I think, for AL to respond to. They lost the bottom tier 1 so fast that it's difficult for them to actually catch up on that wave. They need to bring Flandre over, and while they are constantly fighting for mid control, this is just going to be the dance that turns into nothing as AL fall back from the Drake. I think they're just looking to give at this point, as they've already started to give up a lot of CS. We talked about it earlier, but Flandre still behind here on the Rumble, which is not what we want to see, especially for when we look at TES. They're going to be getting Ornn upgrades, and Ornn is not getting any less tanky from this point on.
Oh, and now they're walking into potentially a big choke. 369 opts not to go in instead. Jackulin, look how aggressive he is playing with his life right there with that arcane shift. Nearly getting caught out by Kyle. Now we see Cream looking towards Flandre, as well as we're still dancing, waltzing around this Infernal Dragon, looking to see who is ready to pull the trigger first. Neither team wants to do it, as it looks like Top Esports a little bit worried about potentially giving over that beast strength buff to AL.
I don't know what's going on here, Grapes. AO may have gotten their brain fried from doing the Alistar mid-tech here, as we're trying to find an entrance onto 369.
Double knock-up. There's the Magnus Storm. Really nice engage here for Kyle. Crisp has the Unbreakable Will on top of him, but 369 will fall first. It will be Shanks to pick up the kill, and there goes Crisp as well. Burnt to a Crisp by Flandre, 2-0 AL, and they're going to pick up the Feats of Strength buff as well, with the Dragon going their way.
That's why we saw TES have to contest for this objective. They have to follow AL wherever they go, and that is also going to be such a through line for anyone's legend in this game. You have 5 grubs, so anywhere on a side lane that you follow through, TES have to match. Anywhere on these objectives before the Feats of Strength are, TES are going to be looking to engage, and AL, they finally find the angle. They said, we've been losing side lane push with Green constantly bouncing between bottom lane and this Dragon fight, but when he goes to commit for the wave, AL find their target, they get 2 kills, and they grab themselves a Dragon, which is a huge boon. Finally gets them back in with the gold lead, and we've got the Otacon spawning in a minute and a half. There is no respite with all of these new objectives being added to the map. You've got to be able to play for everything. They're even starting up the Herald here from the side of anyone's legend.
Cooldown starting to come back up. Jackulin has the ultimate up in 5 and is around the area to try to look for a turn. I think Top Esports, they're going to be the ones to try to pull the trigger first, because it did not work out well when Kyle was the one to find the engage. Here comes Cream, who was not in that last fight as the Blast Cone comes over. Kanavi not looking for it, and they're just going to give this objective away again. Tarzan picking up the Rift Herald, and now here comes the counter engage. Call the Force God will land a counter Kyle over the flash as well. He takes a big chunk of damage from the Between Worlds. Tarzan looking to run away, pops the Crescent Guard, and in comes that ult from Shanks. It's going to push top away, and they will not find a kill. The Blast Cone will send Shanks back, but he is way too healthy for top to pick him down.
I was going to say, Tarzan, you just threw your boy under the bus there. But like you said, way too tanky. Maybe they go for a dive under this turret.
They could definitely, they could get the turret and then probably take Shanks down as well.
Yeah, Kyle's on the way. Tarzan is here to cover if they want it. He's very tanky, though.
It's a 4v1. I mean, Shanks going to take a little bit long to die, but there's just not enough damage to fight that 2v4. Shutdown goes the way of Kanavi, who also picks up the first turret of the game here for top, or second, I should say. And you know, AL might have gotten the Feats of Strength off, but take a look at Top Esports really quickly. They're actually up in gold at this point in the game.
They're doing so well about being able to play towards their side lanes, making sure that they're keeping up in farm as well. We've been talking about the top lane matchup in particular, but someone like Kanavi in the jungle, he has been credited for having some really, really intelligent pathing. I feel like he very rarely makes a mistake that kind of comes at the cost of his own jungle role. And I'm looking for what TES can do to kind of leverage this, because despite AL getting the 5 grubs, this feels more as a takeaway from the opponents than necessarily an objective that they're going to be able to leverage, as they've barely hit these turrets. It's mostly that bottom lane that has been hammered away at, but aside from that, these turrets, these tier 1s from TES are very healthy.
And this kind of goes back to a discussion that some people have been having about how strong really are these Feats of Strength, because you know, sure, it's a really good indication for us broadcasters, maybe for the viewers at home, to see who generally has control of the early game. But when you take a look at it, it's really only a couple percentages here and there on your boost.
It's 5 MR. It's like 5 MR on Mertreads. Like,
exactly.
It's
and
super
so,
useless.
When you are AL here, and Tarzan has done a really good job at focusing on these objectives, no doubt about it, obviously. But you know, when they're maybe focusing on other things like that instead of other potential plays that could win in the game. Now we see Top with the gold lead, at least for now. That could change though here as we have a fight in the top side jungle as Crisp just gets caught straight out. Really nice job from Flandre, that equalizer, doing so much damage in that choke.
Crisp not respecting the HP, and he has been caught out multiple times this game so far. So with the Herald, with those 5 grubs, they're going to use the win more objective here. It seems like Unending Despair has been fixed. Otherwise, I don't think 369 would be allowed to build this item. So I'm going to err on the side of safety here and say that probably is fine. But without them opening up, I thought maybe Rift Herald, then you take the mid-tier 1, you play for the Otacon afterwards. Seems like AL are going to be a little bit more trepidatious for the time being. You have infinite amount of wave clear with Flandre and Hope here. But Dragon number 3 spawning, and AL will suddenly find themselves with almost all of the early game objectives in their side, right? Like, they got the Herald, you got 5 out of 6 grubs, the first 2 dragons as well. TS have not really found their footing this game, and some of that inactivity that we saw from Demacia Cup is starting to bite them.
However, for Top Esports, they do have some things working for them as this dragon is about to spawn. Still have that slight gold lead, and I think the big thing is we talked about this the last time we were about to have a dragon fight. The carries for Top Esports still very hard to collapse upon. They have not died yet so far in this game, and they also are both very strong, having hit their 2-item power spikes. And that, I think, is going to be crucial for them. Their carries are going to have to play these fights really well if they want to pull away with any sort of lead in this game. You can also see with that HUD that you talked about up in the top of your screen, Top Esports actually have more blood petals taken so far in this game than AL, so that's a little bit of extra strength that will go their way that you won't necessarily see in the gold draft.
It's some adaptive force, it's a little bit of experience, it's going to keep them at least relevant with their opponents, if not giving them an outright lead against them, but 15 is usually not enough. Once you get to like 60, 80, that's about a full level in a lot of cases. Dragon being started here by the side of TES as AL are going to walk in through Fog of War.
Yeah.
Great job from Crispy hiding himself. They're going to lose this dragon, but
it's just gone. I mean, there was really good setup there from Top to make sure there was no vision in the area here for AL. Now Tarzan could potentially be caught out. He has to come up the Crescent Guard relatively early to escape. Here comes Call the Force.
Oh, Kyle!
On the other side of things, and here comes Shanks as well, looking to dive in onto the back line. Kanavi already taken rather low, but look at Cream on the other side, just doing so much damage on this Aurora. Flandre on the wrong side of the map and overheated will mean another kill goes the way of Kanavi, and Top Esports get the Dragon, and they pick up 2 on top of it.
Anyone's Legend is playing the map a lot better, but TES in these fights are finding wins that look a little bit difficult, but they're definitely executing. Hope, he moves forward and loses his flash.
Oh, but let's a 2-man top coming in from Shanks, and that's going to be enough with the Hollow Radiance to land the shutdown onto Jackie Love. And with that kill, AL will pick up the mid-tier 1 and put themselves right back to an even game state.
There it is, but Cream on this side lane, always applying pressure, always causing AL to say, hey, we got to reset, we got to be able to mash on this side. Cream is going to take his reset, and this is one of the strengths that I think Cream has really started to hone throughout this last year, was his side lane play, especially with all of the marksmen, as it was just a skill you needed. You take a look at this replay, Tarzan, while he's buying space, look where the damage dealers are. Hope and Flandre nowhere nearby, and while Kyle finds this play, the Rumble ult is actually in a bit of a weird spot. He tries to hide a lot of it in the terrain, but doesn't really get a lot done with it. So AL very split in this fight, and it leads to TS, for the time being anyway, grabbing themselves a dragon, grabbing themselves the kills. And for me, I'm mostly looking at all of those summoner spells that have been used by AL in the last minute.
Look at this aggressive out forward from Hope, and it ends up paying off because Jackie Love ends up not having the Arcane Shift available for when the clock comes through. And just it's a empowered rocket, as well as the Q, the Winds of War from Shanks finishing the deal there. That's a big shutdown that really puts AL back into this one, as it looked like Top Esports got a big win in that fight before it.
We've been saying how close this game is and how it has been for the last 25 minutes, but you start to think about all of the incremental changes, right? The amount of blood roses that are available for TES. They've been able to pick up a couple of those. Ornn, now level 14, and he's given out those masterwork items. Jackie Love being able to pick up one of them, but I mean, they're going to come on soon, and as long as we're keeping an even game state, the things that break that are the small differences, right? Like, were you able to spend your gold and really maximize maybe the boot-in chance for tier 3, or something that the AL are going to try to use to eventually leverage some of that. And you think of also the experience. Were you able to be a little bit cheeky in a side lane and get a level up on your opponent? These small differences can really start to add up, especially when we're talking about a game that is supposed to be so close between these two teams.
I mean, that was the expectation coming in, right? I mean, two teams that made the Demacia Cup finals and played against each other. Even that series ended up being, you know, while AL was favored and ended up doing really well. I mean, top esports players on this team, we were not expecting them to just fall over, roll over, and die 2 series in a row, as it's been a very, very tightly contested game number 1 so far. Right now, the big carries, luckily for us on the broadcast, doing really well in terms of gold, and that means we're going to see a lot of damage being pumped out in these team fights.
JackeyLove on Ezreal, I feel, always is a treat. When we talk about his story being a prodigal AD carry, being scouted from solo queue and being one of the biggest signings, a lot of people wanted to get this guy early, and I think he's really kind of shown off. There has been some moments where I think Jackie has been a bit too aggressive, but he's really dialed that in with all these years of experience, and being able to win the World Championship in one of his debut years as a player is kind of a testament to some of his skill and obviously the serendipity of playing in esports in any competition.
So right now, waiting on next objective to spawn. It feels like, I mean, I don't want to say it all, but it feels like we're almost in the LCK a little bit here. Like, there's not a ton of blood being shed between these two teams. It seems like there's a lot of focus around these major objectives for both teams, and that is the only time that either of them really seem like they want any opportunity to fight. However, looks like we're going to get an opportunity there relatively soon. Dragon a little bit easier to contest and maybe just start up compared to an Otacon or a Baron, so no surprise that they have not just, neither team, you know, in this very close game state has decided to start one of those objectives up kind of on a whale.
We've been focused a lot on items, and we're talking about item completions being a very big spike. Hope just finishing his RFC, so 3-item core here for this Corki is online. JackeyLove is getting closer and closer to finishing what looks to be a Sphere of Shojin, so getting some more HP, and obviously the ability haste that is available to him there. But some really important item and key components for me is Shanks now having the Seeker's Arm Guard. You're going to have access to a Zhonya's Hourglass. Kanavi being very smart and just starting the Dragon, forcing AL's hand. You need to start this this Otacon up, and while he's not here, I mean, TES, they can try to contest.
It's a big debuff also on the team that starts the Otacon and takes damage from it. Going to be a pretty difficult fight for them if they are not careful. Already the Otacon at 4,000 HP. Cream flashing away from the Magnet Storm. Is going to potentially be a 50-50, but without a fight, it'll be Tarzan to pick it up. Those revives will come to be a very massive factor, as look at Shanks and Hope. They are shredding away at top esports and making sure that they don't go down without a fight. They'll have the revives, so any kills are just gravy on top of things. Shanks leading the charge right now. He's getting bursted down a little bit by JackeyLove and 369. And 3 people get sent back to base for AL, but no kills end up coming through on the scoreboard.
One of the changes for this patch is the fact that with the Otacon revive, it's no longer just 100 gold, it's 200 gold. And while all of that happened, guess what? Because they got it, they can deploy right back out onto the map, move towards this Baron, and look at how TS can even respond. They have very few ultimates on their side. Almost all of their summoner spells, at least from their carries, are gone as well. So while they died with all of their revives, it opens up a great map state for them to take this Baron and look towards the Dragon afterwards.
Yeah, you just 1-for-1 the jungler, and with the jungler having the death timer after the revive and you not having it, you just go right back to the Baron and pick it up. So anyone's Legends. Now with that Baron Nashor in hand, they're going to go over to the Dragon as well, which was not finished by Kanavi. He ended up running up to the top side before he ended up taking it down. So that is another thing that AL could potentially pick up here. They have full control. They still have their revives on 2 members, one of them being Shanks on the Galio, so it would be very difficult for top to contest.
Drapes, this puts them on sole point, being able to grab this. As we get the replay, yeah, Kanavi spending so much time on this bottom side of the map. Yes, it's completely unwarded. Thank you to our vision toggle. They spot him with a Scryer's Bloom from what I assume is Hope in the mid lane. And because he doesn't even finish the objective, it just feels like an all-in-all loss coming in for the side of TES. And even in the picture-in-picture, losing out on mid turret, you've got this Baron, you've got those 5 grubs. it just feels like it's gone from bad to worse, and while some of these plays have worked for TES, I feel like we haven't seen them really kind of make too many proactive decisions this map, really responding to AL's map pressure.
And that fight did really good things for a lot of the members on AL, but specifically Hope, who now has 2 kills, has picked up a BF sword on top of his 3 completed items already. At level 16 right now on the Corki, he is going to be a problem, as with the Baron buff, anyone's legend starting to siege down onto some of these inhibitor turrets. Top Esports looking for a response right now onto Tarzan, but he'll be able to steal away that Raptor camp, and no opportunity for collapse as AL will head back to base and redeploy to the top side.
It's funny because I was going to note that we're talking about how tanky this AL team is going to be, and the fact that Jackie Love doesn't have a lot of armor penetration, but when you think about Kanavi, Vi provides so much armor pen. She also has the Black Cleaver that is also going to allow for some armor crush there, so Kanavi is really going to have to link up with Jackie Love and making sure that they're hitting the same target and providing that same value, but Baron, I mean, it's 50 seconds, so it's going to be the end of this. AL have been in firm control of this game. Sometimes it has slipped, but we're seeing more. I mean, Hope gets harder and harder to kill as more gold comes into his pocket. A Bloodthirster now, which I think is already very tough. If we're looking at this, despite the mid lane matchup, I feel like Cream has just not had the same impact on this Aurora, which was something that we could say from their series in Demacia Cup.
I mean, he was given a lot of time to farm, a lot of time just by himself inside lanes, but you know, really just hasn't had the same level of impact, even as somebody like Shanks, who's always been there to provide the hero's entrances in team fights, and also do a decent chunk of damage right now.
Shanks gets the cheat by having 5 grubs, so
that is true. As, you know, speaking of, there goes that top turret in the tier 1 ascent. They're going to look to potentially break open this inner with just the last tick of that Baron buff expiring. So with that, I mean, it wasn't even the game state in terms of gold for the first 20 minutes or so, but now anyone's legends pulling away. They're up about 4K, not insurmountable by any means, but Top Esports definitely need to make a move in the next couple of minutes if they want to have any chance at winning this first game.
Think about the last 5 minutes in this game. Kanavi gets spotted out on the Dragon, they go for the Otacon, they lose all of their revives, but they're able to immediately come back out on the map, start the Baron, and then they take 2 turrets in mid, a bottom lane tier 2, and then a tier 1 in top lane. That is a massive influx of gold coming in for anyone's legend. So the item advantage that we've been talking about, 3,000 gold earned in total, which I'm assuming also includes some of the buff itself, the global gold that Baron gives. So we're kind of posturing over bottom side. It's a bit early before the Dragon, but TES want to make sure that they're able to reinforce their vision and get flank TPs for someone like Cream to find an entrance.
I mean, this Dragon is massive, right? It's potential soul here for AL if they're able to pick it up. So Top Esports want to make sure that they avoid that, and you know, with their composition, if they are at objective first, generally a good sign when you have an Ornn on your team, especially in these secluded areas in the enemy jungle or in the jungle. Shop Barrage comes out, chunks out Hope a little bit, but he's got a Bloodthirster. He'll be okay, as it looks like a final redeployment here for Tarzan, heading back to base, finishing up, I presume, that Rando and Zoman before what could be a potentially game-deciding team fight.
Ooh, and he gets the upgraded boots here, so for those unaware,
he actually sells it. He undoes the Randuin.
Oh, yeah, so he just wants the immediate combat value. This is what we were talking about with the tier 3 boots, was whether or not you need them immediately or if you kind of save them for an immediate power spike, as TES, they get away from the Rumble ultimate 45 seconds before the Dragon spawn.
They're going so ham right now. I mean, yeah, Shanks forced the flash out of Kanavi, I guess. Here comes the ultimate from 369, just landing onto Tarzan. True Shot Barrage not finding too much. AL overextend a lot on that play, kind of for no reason. There comes the ultimate from Shanks, but it's just too late. Kyle has already fallen, and now Cream has a good opportunity to dish out a ton of damage. Meanwhile, on the other side of the fight, Kanavi is singled out, and Hope will shred him down. But it will be at least a trade as Flandre falls 2-for-1 in favor of Top Esports.
Right now, it's all about, can we get this mid-tier 1 for TES? They'll take it here with the Demolish proc from 369. Cream walking forward, he's got a lot of damage here. Has the Horizon, or has the Cosmic Drive, has the upgraded Luden's Companion alongside that Void Staff. And Shanks with a masterful flank here. Already uses Flash, already uses DP. The ultimate is not here, but TES are trying to find a flank play.
Nice turn there for Tarzan.
Oh no! Wait, Shanks, run, brother!
Crisp He's going to face check and find out the Galio, and so now Shanks has to go or else he'll be stuck in a 1v4. Taunt comes out. The shield of Duran only finds the tanks as Jackie Love's able to escape, and Shanks will get shut down. It is Jackie Love picking up the gold, but look at the other side, and Hope has hope. He's shredding him to pieces on this Corki. Chris trying to his best to distract the rest of the team, but it'll be a double kill in for Hope. He is now 5-0-4, and despite the over-aggressive play from Anyone's Legends, they're going to pick up this Ocean Soul.
Anyone's Legend trade their mid laner, and can Kanavi find the steal to buy TES 5 minutes in this game? It's not enough. We're going to see the turn.
Could be a big fight though. There comes the ultimate, lands onto Flandre. The Rumble has been singled out. The ultimate has already been used. The Rumble will die, but Hope just doing so much damage here on this backline. Flandre, it's still alive in this Dragon Pit. 369 does not have any damage as it is an ace picked up for AL.
That's the Ocean Soul doing overtime at the Anyone's Legend factory. They're going to win this fight, and honestly, Grapes, with what we're seeing here, 5 grubs, a Baron if they really want it, it seems like AL are going to look for the end on this play. Massive death timers. It is just the bottom lane of TES to defend the base.
From first blood to potentially the final towers being picked up, it has been firm control of game number 1 for our Demacia Cup champions, Anyone's Legends. They're looking to try to take down some of these Nexus towers right now. Chris pops the Unbreakable Will, and they will find a trade at least in supports. But it will not be enough for them to pick up any more. Tarzan and Hope will back away, with the Baron Nashor being the target instead.
How fast can AL start this? A lot of their damage dealers are not here, or they don't do a ton. It is just Galio and Flandre hitting this. Maybe with Hope, they can look to take this a little bit faster thanks to the true damage. Kanavi's going to go hunting. It's going to be a true shot barrage that spots this, and a second chance at redemption here for Kanavi. Doesn't mean anything. He's jumping right out of that. It's going to be a Baron going over to AL.
They just Flandre dropped the equalizer. It's like, okay, we're gonna burn this down right now.
I'm just taking
this. It's gonna go down one way or the other. I do not know how AL ended up winning this fight. It was a 3v4 for a long bit of it, but they are just maybe a little bit too far ahead. Look how much damage Hope has with the space that Shanks provides for him.
I feel like Aura just doesn't deal enough. This was such a good turn from Kyle and Tarzan. They find Jackie Love immediately, and it's the rest of the tanks here for TES. Crisp no longer available. They killed Kanavi earlier. He respawns, and it just wasn't quite enough. Why are we as TES trying to fight here? They just got the soul. Play towards your side lanes and make it difficult for them, at least on the Baron. Mostly feels like a Hail Mary here, Graves, as TES kind of it's the last bit of signs of life from this team.
And compared to the amount of damage that Hope has right now on the Corki, just feels like TES have nothing in the tank. I mean, we talked about how Cream was pretty underwhelming in some of these team fights. That showed to be true again here around the Dragon Pit. And Jackie Love, while he has been ditching out a little bit, cannot be enough here right now with AL currently up. Now it's 7,000 gold and counting. They're going to finish off that top lane inner turret, the last one available on the map, and looking to crack open their second inhibitor so far of the game. Mid lane is open and has Super Minions pushing it down there as they wait for this next wave of Baron buffs to escort in.
Oh my god. Grapes, this feels like a repeat of our grand finals. It did open up with a bona fide quadra kill for Tarzan, but I'll take that in their weight of gold when it comes to the objectives. It was those first bloods that came through. It was all of the epic of monsters coming in early. It feels like AL had really strong control of the map. They made some individual flubs, but I think mechanically they haven't been the best team in the league. It has really been their map play and how creative they are when it comes to both draft and in-game strategy.
And right now, just potentially putting the finishing touches on. Equalizer comes out, doesn't do too much damage, but does zone Jackie Love away from the rest of his team. Last ditch effort potentially here for 369. The Call of the Force God does land onto 2, but Hope has bought so much space, is so far away from any potential threats. There comes a big taunt from Shanks. So much damage here on the side of Anyone's Legends, and Hope just remains untouched. AL wanting to prove that their Demacia Cup performance was not a fluke, and they're doing a pretty good job so far against their former opponent.
He moves forward,
it is a triple kill. It could be a pentakill, but Cream will not let it happen. Hope finishes the game himself on the Corki, 11-0-5, and Anyone's Legends take game number 1.
Big performance from them, and